What is up, guys? We are back. It's your boy Effie with Any Action Sportscast, here to go over UFC Louisville. Cannonier versus Nassourdine Imavov. We're coming off another winning week, making it 3 winning weeks out of the last 4 cards. On a roll here, and we're going to try to keep it going because, in my opinion, there are some crazy, outlandish, outrageous money lines on this card. We're going to have to look for over-unders here because some of these favorites are just way too wide. Some of these underdogs are super live. If you are a parlay guy, good luck this week because it's going to be a sweat. And if you're an underdog better, this is your week. So without any further ado, let's get right into the fights. And in the first fight of the night, we have a women's strawweight fight between Ryan Dos Santos and Puya Tomar. Dos Santos comes in as a massive minus 380 favorite, while Tomar comes in making her UFC debut at plus 280. Now, obviously, right away, I gotta say, I disagree with that line. Absolutely no shot should Dos Santos be minus 380. I am shocked that this line is moving the way it is, man. I saw her around, minus 200, minus 250, minus 300, minus 350, and it's going and going and going. We're gonna get to Dos Santos at minus 400 here before a fight starts, and I can't believe it. Who is parlaying her? Who's laying it big on her? Like, what are we doing? I get it, guys. This is a pretty black and white fight where if Tomar gets put on her back, if she gets taken down and put on her back, man, the round's pretty much over. Dos Santos classic case where she might only need 3 takedowns to win this fight. 1 takedown per round will win her the round. Tomar just doesn't get up. And then if she does try to get up, she gets submitted, man. Out of her 4 losses, she's been submitted 3 times. And it's just one of those cases where every time she tries to get up, she gives up her neck, she gives up an arm, she gives up a limb. And people are able to take advantage of her big time. But on the feet, man, I actually like Tomar's speed, man. I like her variety and strikes. She has way better kicks than Dos Santos, in my opinion. She has way better forward pressure and way more speed, at least on the feet, man. But it's just one of those things where if Ryan can level change, duck under, and get to those hips, it might be over here for Tomar. It's kind of crazy, in my opinion, that the UFC has given her this tough of a matchup in her first fight. She's the first women's MMA fighter in the UFC from the country of India, 6 billion people. I'm sure they want to, tap into that market. And when the UFC wants to do stuff like that, they want to build their prospect, man. They don't want her to lose and get submitted in the first round. Kind of a weird, matchmaking here, I guess you could say. I'm going with Dos Santos, the favorite, at minus 380. I can't stress it enough that I disagree. And who knows, maybe if she does take her down and, submit her, she will look minus 400 in that first round. But I've seen her get tired in fights. Even in her last fight, she was in a close fight, a 1-1 fight going into that third round, and she just wasn't there, man. I do question her cardio. I do question her heart. And on the feet, man, I just don't think that she's minus 380 on the feet. On the ground, yes, man. She's going to be able to pass her guard and look good doing it. But, man, I just can't get there, man. Minus 380, like, how? How do we get there? Like, who did that? Like, that's just so funny to me, man. Minus 300 on the first, 400, I should say, on the very first fight of the night. No way. I'm passing. If I were to bet Dos Santos, I would just bet her inside the distance. I'm sure you're going to get a better line than that. Minus 380. So, yeah, give me Dos Santos to win that fight. But, I mean, golly, man, what are we doing at minus 380? But up next, man, I'm actually surprised that this is the second fight of the night. These guys should be a little bit deeper on the card, in my opinion. We have a bantamweight fight between Cody Stamann and Taylor Lapilus. Cody Stamann comes in as the underdog here on the left part of your screen at plus 230. And Taylor Lapilus comes here on the right side of your screen as the favorite at minus 280. Kind of weird that he doesn't have a picture right here on the screen. I mean, he's been in the UFC for a while now, so yeah, that's kind of weird. But yeah, so the thing I like about Cody, the underdog here, is his grappling, man. Like, this fight should be relatively close. Do I think that Taylor Lapilus should be a minus 280 favorite? Actually, no. I think that should be a little bit closer, man. Because, for one, I do think that this fight is going to go to the distance. I think it's going to go all 3 rounds. I don't foresee someone getting finished in this fight. And we just saw last week, man, these judges are smoking crack sometimes, man. It's absolutely wild that someone watched that fight between Paulo Costa and Sean Strickland and watched all 5 rounds and then came away with the conclusion that Paulo Costa won that fight. Absolutely insane. So just right off the bat, guys, if you know, well, not know, but like if you're of the mindset that this fight is, 90% of the time going to go to decision, you got to know in the back of your head, like, hey, man, like, these judges aren't great. Like, we're pretty much relying on these guys to get it right. And that's tough, man. It's a lot to ask for a minus 300 favorite, right? So the way it actually plays out, I think that it's going to be a striking fight because Cody Stamann, the thing I like most about him is his wrestling, his grappling, his ability to chain wrestle and go from one takedown, and get stuffed to another one and keep it going that way, especially along the cage, man. I really like his cage wrestling. But he seems to be, kind of fading from that type of mindset. He seems to be, engaging more in the striking and not really trying to secure rounds like he should be towards the end of the rounds. That, like, you would like him to see, man. Like I said, I like his grappling. I don't know why he's been kind of, straying away from that area of his game. I don't know if it's just like he feels more comfortable on the feet now. He's further on in his career, but man, he's 34 years old. He's getting up there for a bantamweight. And Taylor Lapilus, in my opinion, has not great, but good defensive takedown abilities here. He's able to get those underhooks and butt guys off, reverse him along the cage if he gets clinched up along the warning track. But man, he's gonna have a huge size advantage in this fight same height, but he's gonna have a 7-inch reach advantage, and I feel like that's gonna be tough for Cody Stamann to deal with. But in my opinion, the way I see it going, I think Cody Stamann's gonna be the one going forward, getting into Taylor's face, trying to really negate that reach. And I just see Taylor circling from the outside and picking them apart, and every now and then Cody mixing in a shot. It's tough, man. It's tough to get there at minus 280. I really don't see myself getting to minus 300 here on Taylor Lapilus. But I do think that he's going to win the fight. I think Taylor Lapilus via decision is my pick for this fight, my best bet, you could say. But, man, like I just said, man, if we know that this fight is most likely going to go to the decision, it's just you're relying a lot on these judges, man. At minus 300, I don't know if I want to pay juice on a fight that I think is going to go all 3 rounds and then, have to rely on 3 guys to get the card right. So my pick is Taylor Lapilus to win a decision here. I expect it to play out on the feet because, like I said, Cody Stamann, I don't foresee him, spamming takedowns over and over again. He hasn't really fought like that in a while. And I feel like he trusts himself, with his hand speed. Like, he has decent enough boxing. He put 1-2s together. He can throw in combination, rip to the body, and have pretty good defense. But getting up there in age, huge reach advantage going in here for Taylor Lapilus. Give me the favorite. Give me the favorite to win via decision. Oh, and this one's a very exciting fight. I have a hot take for this one. We have Eduarda Moura versus Denise Gomes. Moura comes in as a favorite at minus 185, and Denise Gomes comes in at plus 155. I'm going with the underdog here. I don't know if I'm going to be betting this fight yet, but I really want to, man. I want to go with Denise Gomes, and it's pretty obvious, guys, here. So if you don't watch the UFC, if you don't know much about these fighters, you should know that Moura is a quote-unquote weight bully. She's missing weight a lot in her fights. She missed weight in her last fight. And she's just way bigger than all of her opponents, right? And she just mauls them. She grabs them, puts them down, and then does her work from there, whether she's passing guard, grounding, pounding him, or trying to snatch up a neck on the way up. Like, she's doing good on the mat. Like, she can grapple 100%. She is a grappler. And that's where it gets tricky here for Denise Gomes, man. Denise Gomes is a little bit more of a well-rounded fighter. I definitely, obviously, give the striking advantage here to Denise and the grappling advantage to Moura. But the thing with Denise, the red flags she's given us is obviously, you can't ignore the big elephant in the room. She was getting taken down by Loma Luke Boomy, man. Loma Luke Boomy is about 3'5", a tiny Muay Thai, kickboxer. Striker used to say, with no grappling, and she was getting taken down by her. And then Angela Hill, man. Angela Hill's been in the UFC about 40 years now, and she never wrestles. Like, she never offensively goes to, wrestle people. She's more of a striker, engaging in a 15-minute striking fight in all of her fights, and she was taking down Denise Gomes. So, on one hand, it's a terrible, terrible look to be getting taken down by one of those 2 fighters as many times as she did. She got taken down 5 times by Angela Hill, absolutely crazy. But on the other hand, guys, like, I'm of the mindset of, like, Denise was making them uncomfortable. Denise was, in their face and making them think, oh crap, I need to shoot here because that's my best chance of success, which it was. She lost both those fights, but man, she hits hard, man. You saw her absolutely crack Yasmin Yargi, one-punched her, like, put her out cold. Plus, she has a neck tattoo, man. You never want to go against girls with neck tattoos. We saw last week with the Limo that missed weight by 5 pounds. He had a funny hat. We always say you don't go against people with funny hats. Denise Gomes, a lesbian. I don't even know if she's lesbian, but a girl with a neck tattoo, man, that's tough to go against. But I actually think, like I said, Denise is going to make Moura uncomfortable. She's going to have her shooting right away from the beginning of the fight. And yes, Moura might look great in that first round. I expect Denise to lose that first round, but then to come on strong later in the fight. Denise has been finding way higher level of competition than Moura, and she's looked okay doing it, man. I know it's a tough look against Loma Luke Boomy, especially because she's a Muay Thai fighter and she's so small. But, man, she has good wrestling coaches, man. Don't sleep on Frank Hickman and George Hickman over there at Bang Tao MMA in Thailand. They can wrestle. Like, she has good wrestling coaches. So that wasn't that crazy. The Angela Hill 5 takedowns, that was alarming for sure. But give me Denise Gomes. Give me the underdog here. I gotta watch this line. I want to see weigh-ins. Dude, it's funny I say that because Moura might miss weight again. But yeah, give me Denise Gomes. My first underdog shot of the night is Denise Gomes, and I actually might get to the window. Oh, and up next is sleeper for fight of the night. Do not miss this one. We have John Castaneda taking on Daniel Marcos in the bantamweight division. Castaneda comes in at plus 100, pretty much even money, and Daniel Marcos comes in at minus 120, a slight favorite. Now, this is one I'm going back and forth with, guys. I really don't blame anyone for picking the underdog here in Castaneda, but I am going to go with Marcos. It's kind of funny I'm going against a guy nicknamed Sexy Mexi. It's tough to go against a fellow Mexican, but I like Marcos, man. I like his leg kicks here from Marcos. He likes to rip the body, which I really like to see from guys. He can go head, he can go body, he can go calf. I love when guys can go all 3 areas like that. Very good forward pressure, can fight off the back foot as well. But Castaneda is a junk car dog, dude. This guy is well-rounded, and he's willing to go through the fire to get his win, man. Another thing that I kind of really don't like from Marcos is that I actually thought he lost his last win against David Grant. I don't want to say robbery or anything, but that was a really close fight. I thought he lost. And so he honestly should probably be 14-1. I know you see right there he's 15-0. In his last fight, he got canceled because of a nutshot. It was kind of a weird outcome, but Man, it's a tough fight, and I actually think it's going to be super exciting. This is my sleeper pick of the night for fight of the night. I really can't see how you could be confident in one fighter or the other. They're both capable of winning this fight. Castaneda is definitely capable of grinding out Marcos, of getting him down, and really working him from there, or just clipping him on the feet, because Daniel Marcos is willing to engage, man. Both these guys are forward pressure fighters. Daniel Marcos seems to like to go to the calf kick more, and to the body a little bit more than Castaneda does. But man, this is gonna be a banger, man. Two young guys. I really am looking forward to this fight. I'm going to go with Marcos, a little bit more output, and a little bit more faith in him to be the one winning minutes, whether he's going forward or going backward. I kind of trust him a little bit more in both those areas, you can say. But if he gets taken down and has to grapple in this fight, it could get interesting. Yeah, man, this one's going to be a banger. Absolute war, I expect. Give me Daniel Marcos, man. I feel like the fans are in for a good one there. And one thing I will say is that we're at UFC Louisville. We're not in Apex. There's going to be a crowd there. So that's always good. So I think they're in for a good fight here. Give me Daniel Marcos to win via decision. Up next, we have a women's flyweight fight between Andrea KGB Lee and Montana De La Rosa. This is actually a rematch. Andrea Lee winning that first fight. We have Andrea Lee coming in at -170 and Montana De La Rosa coming in at +140. And it's funny, man, because in her last fight, Andrea Lee fought Miranda Maverick, and I actually picked her as an underdog. I picked her to win that fight, and I picked her to win via decision. And now she's getting a worse fighter with a pretty much similar skill set, and I'm like a little hesitant. Like, how can I pick her against Miranda Maverick and not pick her against Montana De La Rosa? I'm picking Lee, man. I'm going with Lee. I don't know if I'm going to bet her. Her money line's been on the move a little bit. It's getting a little bit wider, but not as much as the other lines on the card. A lot of these lines on the card, guys, are super wide, so you got to kind of pick, a little bit of your spots, and can't really be betting -300, -280 like every single fight. Like a -170 is a little bit more pleasing. But I actually think that Andrea Lee via decision or a late finish, round 3 finish, is kind of the area I want to attack this fight. As far as the skill sets, man, Montana's going to look to wrestle. She's going to look to pin Andrea Lee down in this fight, but I think that Andrea Lee is going to be able to down block, keep this fight upright, and then from there pick her apart. It's so crazy to me that Andrea Lee was giving Macy Barber a close fight and then just sucked against Miranda Maverick. Her speed was gone. Her footwork was gone. It looked like her desire to win was gone, man. And she got worked in her last fight. So I honestly thought that Andrea Lee was going to get cut in her last fight after losing. But here she is, man, getting a rematch in a fight where she already won this fight. I think it was like 4 years ago. I will say this does seem like a loser leaves town fight. The loser of this fight is honestly probably going to get cut. And I wouldn't be shocked if they both get cut, guys. Give me Andrea Lee to win this fight via decision. I'm not crazy confident. Because, I mean, that price is a little bit wide. -170 in a fight that I think is going to go all 3 rounds. But I do think that Andrea Lee is the better fighter here. And she already won this matchup. Give me Andrea Lee to win it again at -170. I don't know what her decision prop is, but I think that's the way I would bet that fight. Give me Andrea Lee to win that fight via decision. Oh my God, look at this money line. Up next, we have a bantamweight fight between Brad Katona and Jesse Butler. Katona comes in at -725, absolutely hilarious. And Jesse Butler comes in at +450. So straight away, I do think that Brad Katona is going to win this fight, but do I think that he's -725? Hell no. Like, absolutely not, guys. Habib is like that. Like, John Jones, Islam Makhachev, those are the fighters that should be -725. Like, what are we doing? Like, how is this happening? Then you look at Jesse Butler, like, okay, like that's why. Like, this is why he's so much of a favorite. So Jesse Butler, first of all, this is at bantamweight. This is kind of weird. This is my big, huge question mark for this fight. Is that Jesse Butler took his UFC debut on short notice against Jim Miller because they needed to give Jim Miller an opponent, keep him on the card. And Jesse Butler threw his hat in there at 150, right? He's usually fighting at 145. He's usually a featherweight. And Butler lost, got finished horribly in like 50 seconds, something crazy. And then now he's down to bantamweight. So he went up a weight class, lost, and now he's going down 2, which is really only going down 1 because he normally fights at 145. And so I'm interested to see how he, makes that weight cut. It's super rare that someone, this far in their career gets their first chance in the UFC out of nowhere, just changes divisions like that. And they're giving him Brad Katona, who is very well rounded, man. I wouldn't say he's a specialist in any single area, but this dude has good fight IQ, good rig management, and he knows how to win, man. One thing I really liked from him on The Ultimate Fighter was that he's really cerebral. I know he came off kind of like a jerk or like a kind of like annoying, I guess you could say, but he was dedicated, man. He was like all about X's and O's. He definitely watches tape. He definitely wants to take the path of least resistance to win his fights. He's coming off a loss as a huge favorite in that fight. But I mean, freaking Garrett Armfield is way better than Jesse Butler. Jesse Butler, I mean, again, like just like Katona, I don't think he's a specialist in any single one area. If you were to describe him as a fighter, I would describe him as a well-rounded fighter. He's very good going forward. He has some pretty sick highlights actually on the regional scene. As far as what he strikes, but like it's not like he's gonna get out grappled here by Katona. At least I don't think so. Dude, -725. Like, how did we get here? Like, I actually saw Katona earlier in the week at minus 600, and I audibly out loud was like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "Holy shit, that's crazy!" And then now he's even wider. Like, wow, this is crazy. Like the parlay boys are out in full force this card, guys. If you like underdogs, this is your card because someone's got to bust a parlay. There's just no shot all these favorites are going to win just like they did last week. There has to be some sort of regression, man. I feel like there's only been 3 underdogs the last 3 cards that have won something crazy like that, and or something like 3 or 4 or 5 or something like that. A handful of fighters have won the last 3 cards that were underdogs, and it's got to sway eventually, guys. So at minus 725, hell no. You have to go in there and rip your opponent's heart out and eat it on camera in that very first round. I don't think it happens. Katona has had 6 fights in the UFC, and they've all gone to the decision, so it's not like he's out there finishing anybody. And if he were to finish someone, it would be someone like Jesse Butler. But Jesse Butler will be the bigger fighter. I mean, he's 5'10", Brad Katona is 5'6", and he's going down a weight class. So, like I said earlier about the weigh-ins, you have to kind of wait on a few of these fighters to see them how they weigh in. Jesse Butler is one of them. So, Katona I have no problems or no like questions about making weight. He'll look fine. He'll make weight, totally professional. But just Jesse Butler is the one you should be watching out for. But man, give me Katona to win that fight via decision. But oh my goodness, bro, 725, you're crazy, bro. And up next, we have a banger of a fight in the welterweight division between Charles Chuck Buffalo Radke and Carlos Prates. Radke comes in at plus 200, while Carlos comes in at minus 245. And I feel like Charles is a huge public underdog. A lot of my fans that like the UFC, watch tape and do videos like this, they're on Charles Radke. And I get it, man. If you watch Carlos Prates' last fight, it's just a tough look to get outstruck by a police officer. There's a couple things in the UFC that you never want to see. You never want to see a guy you bet against come in with a funny furry hat. You never want to see, a girl you bet against have a neck tattoo. And you never want to see someone get beat up by a police officer in the octagon. That's terrible. It's a huge red flag. But man, other than that, like it's kind of hard to give him a pass for that because it was such a bad performance. But Prates, like, he's powerful, right? So he's very powerful. He has very good finishing upside. But so does Radke. Radke's, 2-0 in the UFC, cash both times as an underdog. And one thing that I will say from him is that he seems to be quite doubted every time. Like the ROI on this guy's like money line, it has to be something crazy. And here he is again at plus 200, being an underdog, doubted again in front of a crowd. If he gets on the mic and wins, he's going to say something crazy to DC again. But as far as the fight playing out, like, yes, I do think that Prates can crack and finish Radke, but Radke is like, he's not bad. Like, I don't see how he's just like a scrub, like getting in there and getting cracked. Like his striking defense isn't that bad. His grappling is decent. At plus 200, I don't know. I will say, hey, minus 245 for Prates, that is too wide for me. Okay, like I would rather see a minus 170, minus 165, a slight favorite for Prates here. So if I'm gonna bet Prates, I would bet him inside the distance, get off that minus 250. It would probably have to be KO. I don't see him clubbing and subbing Radke. But again, I can see Radke straight winning the fight, man. This is a tough one. Give me Prates. I just know I'm going to regret picking this guy. But give me Prates to win this fight. The size, I do think is going to favor him. Radke is a little bit small for welterweight. But give me Prates to win that fight. It should be a banger. And I actually don't think that fight goes the distance. I think that someone's going to get served in that fight. Ooh, and up next, we have a banger of a fight. Thiago Moises versus Ludovic Klein in the lightweight division. Thiago Moises comes in at a plus 110 underdog, and Ludovic Klein is a minus 130 favorite. Interesting line. I actually thought Thiago Moises was going to be the favorite. But man, I actually underrated Ludovic quite a lot. Like in his fight against Ignacio Bahamunez, he was really good. I was throwing a ton of output, a ton of kicks, forward pressure like crazy. And yes, Ignacio Bahamunez isn't the most experienced guy. He's quite green in his career in the UFC, but he was huge. Like that guy has a crazy size advantage over Ludovic Klein. And Ludovic kind of put it on him. Like he schooled him. I believe that was in Nashville. And in this fight, it comes down to the grappling. Can Thiago Moises get down Klein? Because if he can, he should have his way. Thiago Moises' BJJ is elite, guys. Very good, very quick on the mat. This guy took down Islam Makhachev in that fight. He took him down, picked him up, and dumped him like he weighed 20 pounds. He took Islam Makhachev to the 4th round, man. Like at that time, Islam was finishing everybody in the first 2-3 rounds. And Thiago actually gave him a little bit of a fight. He did get finished in that 4th round, but still, like to see him pick up and dump Islam was crazy. To think that he can't do that to Ludovic Klein, I mean, I feel like he can. It's just that Ludovic Klein, he hits hard, dude, and he has a ton of output, and he's going to be going forward. He seems to be physically bit. This guy seems that he's on all the juice. Ever since you saw the left, this guy is jacked. Crazy lats. This guy is yoked. And it comes down to, can Ludovic Klein stay on his feet? If he stays on his feet, I feel like he's going to pick apart Thiago Moises. Thiago Moises got a huge step down in competition in his last fight against Mitch Ramirez. Mitch Ramirez is not a UFC level fighter, guys. I've seen him fight many times here in Vegas on the regional scene at Tough Enough. And I was quite shocked that they gave him Thiago Moises. Like, that made no sense whatsoever, in my opinion. This is the type of fighter that Thiago Moises should be fighting. Give me Ludovic Klein, and I'm gonna kick myself in the butt again because I can see a path for Thiago to win. I can see him winning via submission. It's just that off his back, he's too comfortable a little bit in MMA. In men's MMA, it's kind of rare to get submissions off your back. We saw it with Holland. We saw a few other guys throwing up. I think Morono was throwing up a bunch of R bars last week against Nico Price, and it's just way more statistically unlikely to happen from the males and women's for some reason. So Thiago Moises off his back isn't the best. I'd rather have Thiago Moises take down and pass Ludovic like on top, whether it be side control, half guard, or full guard. Man, I gotta go with Ludovic Klein. I actually do like his striking. I doubted him before, like I said, and I'm done doing that. A very good speed, very good output. Yeah, so I'm going with Ludovic Klein. I wouldn't be shocked if he finishes Moises, but I think that he will win a 3-round decision. And in the welterweight division on the main card now, we have Miguel Baeza versus Punahele Soriano. Miguel Baeza comes in at -190, while Punahele Soriano comes in at +160. I don't know why he doesn't have a screen. This guy's been in the UFC forever, or a picture on the screen. That's kind of weird. So yeah, man, one big thing about this fight is that Punahele Soriano is going down to welterweight. You know, he's usually been fighting at middleweight, and that's interesting because at middleweight he didn't have cardio. He had one round of cardio, and then he would suck like after 5 minutes of the fight. So round 2, round 3, like he's nowhere to be found. Like he has no takedown defense, has no output, nothing on his shots. Punahele Soriano has a ton of power, right? He has a ton of power in that very first round, though. If you extend the fight, that power seems to fade. That output seems to fade. And the ability to keep the fight on the feet definitely seems to fade. This guy was a state champion wrestler in Hawaii, and he was in there getting taken down by 80,000 times by Nick Maximoff. And then in his last fight against Dustin Stolfus, who we'll talk about in a second, he was getting taken down in that fight, and that really shocked me, man. That was a really tough look. I will say, he does have a good left hook, a good crisp straight with his right hand. And that's what he's going to be looking to land on Miguel Baeza, because Miguel Baeza, we've seen him get absolutely floored. That's a big red flag here for Miguel Baeza, is his chin. How is his chin going to hold up? He's coming off a huge layoff. I do think he's going to be able to withstand and not get knocked out in that very first round. Is Miguel Baeza is still alive and still conscious after 5 minutes of this fight. I feel like he's going to win this fight. If you're going to bet on Punahele Soriano, take him round 1. Take him inside the distance, more specifically round 1, because he'll probably get crazy odds. I'm going with Baeza to win this fight. -200, no way, man. I've seen this guy get hurt way too much, and I know this guy Punahele can crack. It's just that it's just a classic case of a guy with no cardio, and then plus you add the fact that he's going down a weight class. Man, I really got to wonder how he's going to look, how that cardio is going to look, how the output's going to look, and how the speed is going to look, how his ability to take a punch is going to look. I mean, I think he makes weight. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's going to miss weight or anything. But that's just a weird move, in my opinion. I feel like he's going to lose this fight and get cut. Punahele Soriano, unfortunately, probably going to lose and then get released by the UFC. So give me Miguel Baeza to win this fight. As far as do I think it goes all 15? Yeah, I think it's going to go all 15. Give me Miguel Baeza, either 3rd round finish or decision. Now it's time for a middleweight fight between Juicy J, Julian Marquez, and Zachary Reese. Marquez comes in at -135, and Zachary Reese currently comes in at +115. This line has been going up and down, so it was a little bit closer earlier in the week. Marquez around -120, and then he skyrocketed up to around -165, and now a little bit of a buyback coming in on Zachary Reese here. So Marquez's line is coming back down, and this -135 is a little bit of the area that, you know, I would expect him to be. I do expect Marquez to be the favorite in this fight. I do expect him to win this fight. And I am low on Zachary Reese, guys. Like, it's funny because when you're betting or picking fights, sometimes it's not so much of liking a guy. It's more so of not liking the other guy. And I definitely don't like Zachary Reese. I just don't know how. I don't see a path. I don't see him out grappling Marquez or finishing him on the mat for that reason, you know, or cracking him with a clean shot. Both these guys are not durable. I've seen him rocked multiple times. Marquez, like, he has no striking defense. This guy is slow. His guard is like all the time, especially on the feet. But man, he has way more experience, higher caliber of wins. And at -135, that's not crazy. At -160, you know, getting up there to -200, yeah, like that's a little bit too wide. But -135, that's a little bit more fair in my opinion. Give me Marquez to win this fight. It's a pretty low-level fight, guys. Go ahead and walk the dog. You know, grab something to eat during this fight. Give me Marquez to win that fight. Juicy J. It's so funny. Every time I think of him, I think about how he fumbled Miley Cyrus's call out. I mean, you had it, bro. You had it right there, and then you just let it slip away. What are we doing, bro? Oh my God! Talk about fumbling the bag. But yeah, man, Marquez. We'll go decision. A little bit too many decisions for my life. I'm sure we'll see some finishes. But yeah, man, up next, we have a middleweight fight. This one's going to be a banger. It's a really weird outcome I'm expecting in this fight. We have a fight between Bruno Ferreira and Dustin Stolfus. Ferreira comes in with a -265 money line, while Stolfus comes in at +215. Now, again, like I was saying with Punahele Soriano, Bruno Ferreira seems to I mean, it's kind of weird saying this because like he hasn't really had a chance to prove me wrong. But Bruno's fights aren't going past 2 rounds. All of his fights are ending in that first round, just like Zachary Reese, or in that second round. And yeah, you can say like, oh, he's gonna get tired after that first round. Never seen him pass that first round. But it's either him, finishing guys, or he's getting finished himself. This dude can crack. Bruno Ferreira, I know he's 5'10" at middleweight, which is tiny, guys. That is just midget, bro. 5'10" at middleweight. These guys are supposed to be huge. That's just so small, but he can crack, dude. This guy's a little tank, little bulldozer. Like, this dude is a brick house. We saw him get finished in his last fight, but that was more so of like a naked kick while on one leg. He's throwing that outside kick, and he got hit clean with a straight, kind of off balance, put out, kind of like Kevin Holland last week. But he can crack. Obviously, real big fight-ending potential on the feet. He's fighting Dustin Stolfus, who kind of had to face that in his last fight with Punahele Soriano, and Punahele Soriano was cracking Dustin Stolfus. I was kind of shocked that he was able to eat those shots from Punahele Soriano. A lot of check hooks, a lot of check punches in general. Dustin's head is up there on the center line, there to be hit. But he's the way more well-rounded fighter here than Bruno Ferreira for 15 minutes. In that first round, Bruno's going to look like the better fighter, and he probably is a better fighter. But after that, if he could just withstand that first round, like, I wouldn't be shocked to see Dustin Stolfus come on strong in that second and third round. It comes down to, can Bruno, end this fight in that very first round. And I gotta say, guys, I'm surprised at that money line. I'm surprised to see Bruno Ferreira coming in at minus almost 270 on the money line. We just saw Dustin Stolfus win as an underdog, and we just saw Bruno Ferreira get finished in his last fight. Man, I gotta go with Bruno. I gotta go with Bruno KO. But I gotta disagree with minus 265, guys. Like I said, like a fighter that's a little bit unproven in their career, only 12 fights. I think only like 2 or 3 UFC fights in his pro career in general. But yeah, and he's super undersized. He's 5'10" and fighting a guy that's 6 foot. But I will say, I've never been that high on Dustin Stolfus. I know he got a good win in his last fight. I am a little bit still hesitant to pick him or get behind him, on his fights. But I gotta say, guys, minus 265, that's a little bit too wide. Give me Bruno Ferreira to win this fight inside the distance. I'm going to go a round 1 knockout because that's really his only path. If he doesn't win that fight in that very first round, he's probably not going to win the fight, guys. So give me Bruno Ferreira to win that fight, first round knockout. And up next, we have a bantamweight fight between Raul Rosas Jr. and Ricky Turcios. Raul Rosas Jr. comes in as a minus 235 favorite, and Ricky Turcios comes in at plus 190. Now, this is a rebooked fight. It's not a rematch, but it's a rebooked fight. This was supposed to happen in Mexico City on the Brandon Moreno and Brandon Royval card. But then right before the walkouts were supposed to happen, Raul Rosas Jr. pulled out. Rosas Jr. said that he didn't feel good. He was sick or whatever. He tried to warm up and feel better. And he pulled out, man. He had suffered from a classic case of pussyitis, man. Right before the fight starts, he just pusses out, man. It was crazy. And one thing I will say is that I'm glad that it happened because that fight was supposed to happen in Mexico City. Mexico City has insane elevation, right? And Raul Rosas Jr. is 0 to 100 the whole fight. This guy has a huge pacing problem. He's using his energy way too much, way too early. And if he was to go out there and maul Ricky Turcios for that first round, I was going to expect Ricky Turcios to be the one still there in that second and third round, be the fresher fighter, while Raul Rosas Jr., even though he mauled him in that first round, hypothetically, would fade. I do expect him to fade out, obviously at elevation. But now we're in Louisville, Kentucky. We're not at elevation in Mexico City, and that favors Rosas Jr. big time, in my opinion. And also, that fight was booked about, 4 months ago now, so he's had a lengthy training camp here to get ready for someone again. This is the second training camp he's had for Ricky Turcios. And as far as the matchup, 2 grapplers, right? One guy doesn't throw output, and that's Ricky Turcios. This guy does not do anything on the feet. He'll just walk forward, feint, never throw, feint, shoot a takedown, get stuffed, get up, feint, never throw, shoot another takedown, get stuffed. While Rosas Jr., he'll just try to take you down. Like, he'll run across the cage, dive at your legs, doesn't get it, he'll dive at it again. And he will throw output on the feet. One thing I will say, though, is that the 2 guys we've seen Raul Rosas Jr. beat, Jay Perrin and Terrence Mitchell, both those guys not in the UFC, not UFC level fighters. So, yeah, he's looking good, but is he looking good against guys that are, UFC caliber? And I don't think so. But Ricky Turcios, is one of those guys. Like, I don't think he's that good either, man. He was getting taken out a million times by Brady Heastan, and a few other guys on Ultimate Fighter, and Kevin Navidad. I mean, these guys are not good. Raul Rosas Jr. is a better grappler than Turcios. He's training with guys like Patchy Mix, with guys like Merab Dvalishvili. He'll be ready, man. Give me Raul Rosas Jr. to win this fight. And I'm contemplating, guys, a 5-unit max bet on Rosas Jr. because a lot of these fighters on this card are just not trustworthy. And I do think that he has a skill set to win and out-grapple Ricky Turcios. So 2 rounds to 1. Round 1 and 2 to Raul Rosas Jr. Round 3 to Ricky. Round 2 going to be the swing round. So give me Raul Rosas Jr. to win this fight via decision, and I wouldn't be shocked if he snatches up the neck from Turcios. But Turcios is super scrambly, guys. This guy is always moving off his back. Obviously, reminds me of Tony Ferguson, Charles Oliveira, throwing those elbows from bottom, trying to be active from bottom, not accepting position, and really not making a mistake on the way up. But he can't get taken down. And I think that Rolly Rosas Jr. will be able to do that and secure rounds that way. So give me Rosas Jr., the 19-year-old, win this fight via decision. The co-main event, guys. We have a light heavyweight fight between Dominic Reyes and Dustin Jacoby. Reyes comes in at plus 190. Jacoby comes in at minus 235. And yeah, man, this is one of those fights where skill for skill, Reyes should not be the underdog. Skill for skill, this is close. This is a pick'em type fight. If anything, Reyes is probably the more proven guy. But bro, he's on a 4-fight losing streak, and he's gotten slept 3 straight times, absolutely horribly. Like, and it's just so crazy because he was at the top, man. He was at the top of the mountain, fought John Jones, beat him 3 rounds to 2. I don't care what no one says. Like, I was there, I was watching the fight. Like, guys, he lost that fight. Like, John Jones lost that fight 3 rounds to 2. I don't care what no one says. Then obviously they gave it to John Jones, and then comes back, gets knocked out by Blachowicz, gets knocked out by Prochazka, gets knocked out by Ryan Spann. And that Ryan Spann knockout was the biggest red flag because that was a straight punt, a straight jab. Yes, Ryan Spann is like super huge, super tall, has a lot of power, but that's just a tough look, man. To get dropped by a jab, that's never good. I actually did pick him to win that fight. I had money on him in that fight. He was a minus 200 favorite in that fight. He goes out there and gets dropped in the first round by a jab and loses. That's 4 straight losses, 3 via knockout. You gotta wonder about Dominic Reyes' chin, and he's going up there against a striker. Dustin Jacoby, not a knockout artist. He's more of a volume striker, which is kind of weird at light heavyweight. But one thing I will say is that he has a titanium rod. I don't know if it's his right hand or his left hand, but he had broke his forearm like years ago, and so he's able to throw without really feeling anything. He's able to block without really feeling anything, and I really like that from Jacoby. He's a very skilled kickboxer. He knows what he's doing on the feet. Obviously fought Alex Pereira, got knocked out in Glory in kickboxing overseas before he came to the UFC. I believe this is his second stunt in the UFC. And since he's come back for his second run, man, he's looked good. Like, I like this guy. I do think that he lost to Khalil Roundtree. I don't think that he should have gotten that win. But, man, I've bet on Jacoby many times. I've won money with Jacoby many times. But I do think that minus 235 is too wide, guys. Dominic Reyes, I feel like, is in a perfect position to shock people this weekend. At plus... a little bit less than 200 now, plus 190. Like, that's not the worst bet, guys. If you like underdogs, if you want to take a shot on a guy with plus money, I think Dominic Reyes is your guy because he actually does have finishing upside in this fight. He is coming off a little bit of weird personal things. He said that he had been dealing with blood clots. I know he was scheduled to fight Carlos Ulberg, which thank God he didn't because he would have gotten knocked out again. And then he had found out he had blood clots or whatever. Couldn't train, whatever, had to get that sorted out. Now he's back, which is very good, man. That's awesome. Good to hear. So he definitely had time, off from that knockout from Spann. Man, this is tough because Jacoby's, like I said, a slick striker, man. He's going to be in Reyes' face. A lot of output from Jacoby. This is a banger, guys. This could go either way. So if it's going to go either way, at minus 235, I got to go with the underdog. Give me another underdog, Dominic Reyes at plus 190. Even though Dustin Jacoby's been my boy, man. Like, kind of feels bad going against him. It's actually kind of crazy that he's 36 years old and older than Dominic Reyes. I did not expect that when I was looking at the stats. But give me Dominic Reyes, man. It's so weird to me. He's plus 190. Yes, he's got finished 3 straight times via knockout. Yes, it's a tough look. I think skill for skill, he's not that bad. Give me Dominic Reyes. Win as an underdog. I think he wins the decision, and a sneaky bet for that fight. I like the over 1.5 because everyone thinks Dominic's going to get knocked out by the first punch that lands. But I don't think so, man. Give me Dominic Reyes to win that fight via decision. In the main event, guys, if you haven't already, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave me a comment, man. Last week someone called me out and said that I talk way too fast. It's not like I'm taking some nose beers before the show. That could be true. I'm not saying it's not, but it's weird, man. It's I do my study and everything, and then when I get in front of the camera, I just even my voice, even my friends that know me outside this, they say my voice is way different, and I sound nervous or I'm talking way too fast, which is true. I don't know, it's just one of those things that happens when I start hit record, but yeah, it's just weird. I guess I talk fast when I break down fights. So, yeah, man. In the main event, we have another live underdog. We have Jared Cannonier versus Nassourdine, the Russian sniper Imavov. He's French. We have Jared Cannonier coming in at plus 100. Nassourdine coming in at minus 120. And I'll keep this one quick because I feel like I've gone way too long on this video. We have Jared Cannonier at plus 100. I'm going to pick him to win this fight. I don't know if I'm going to be betting him in this fight. I wish I can get a little bit more than plus 100 on the money line. I'm going to shop around some books because I do think he's going to win this fight. So, one thing you guys have to know if you don't know already, Cannonier is 40 years old, guys. He's 40 years old, and he's coming off an MCL surgery. He hasn't fought in over a year. He's coming off a huge layoff, MCL, and he's 40 years old. But I still think he's going to win this fight. It's so crazy. He has all those things adding up against him, but I still think he can win this fight. Nassourdine Imavov, good striker, good speed, good footwork, good in and out movement. Actually, some pretty good grappling and submissions. He likes to go for a few submissions per fight. But he fades. He definitely fades as fight goes on. That third, fourth, fifth round, he doesn't look as fresh as he normally does in that first and second round, which is quite normal. Still young in his career, so you definitely have time to improve on that. But this will be in the big cage, big octagon in front of a crowd, and I just think that Jared Cannonier is going to be in his face. I really do feel like Jared Cannonier is going to make Nassourdine and Imavov uncomfortable on the feet. I feel like even the blocks or even the strikes that Cannonier gets blocked will have an impact on Nassourdine and Imavov. There's just certain guys in the UFC where if you have your guard up, you're shelled up, you obviously block their shots, you parry their shots, it still affects you, man. It still hurts. I mean, Jared Cannonier got his arm broken by Robert Whitaker because Whitaker threw a head kick and he blocked it, and that snapped his arm. So, I mean, it's just one of those things where I think Cannonier hits heavy. I think he has those dense bones. This guy's fought at heavyweight, light heavyweight, now he's at middleweight. I mean, guys, he's 7-2 at middleweight, and he's only lost to Adesanya and Whitaker. Like, those are one of the two best guys in that division for the last, 5 years. I mean, this guy has wins against Strickland, Vittori. Like, he's good. Like, this guy is good. Cannonier is good. I don't see him getting mauled. I don't see him getting taken down, held down, losing rounds that way. And I don't see him losing a fight on the feet for 25 minutes. I feel like he's going to have his chances. He's going to have his moments. I feel like if the big shot comes, it's going to be from Cannonier. That's the curveball, guys. He's 40 years old. There's nothing, there's nothing in our, I guess, capping, you could say, that says that this might be the cliff. Like, he might be looking good, durable, and then boom, one fight just shows up, his chin's gone. That might be this fight. And Nassourdine is a good up-and-coming fighter, ascending. I will say he did leave his gym, MMA Factory with Oregon, before this fight. This is his first fight, or it might be his second, since leaving that gym, so it should be interesting to see how his improvements continue in his career, because I actually do think that he's pretty good. I mean, I was so mad in that Chris Curtis fight because I had a huge bet on him, and then Chris Curtis said that he got hit in the head or something and he couldn't continue going. Just look for a way out, and it was so annoying because Nassourdine was cruising, and Curtis is good, man. Curtis is a very skilled striker, good boxer, good movement, a good defense, really hard guy to hit, and Nassourdine was schooling him. So one thing I do think that we will see is Imavov really utilize that clinch, especially along the cage here against Cannonier to win minutes that way. I just think that Cannonier is going to be able to get him off and really get to that output. So both these guys throw around the same output per minute, but I think that Cannonier is going to make them matter more. So for that reason, I'm going with the underdog here, the 40-year-old fighter who hasn't fought in over a year, coming off of MCL surgery. Give me Jared Cannonier to win as an underdog. That'll do it, guys. I know I filmed this super late this week. It's Thursday night. Weigh-ins are a few hours in the morning here on Friday. So yeah, man, good luck. We're coming off another winning week at UFC 302. That's 3 out of the last 4 cards we've won. Our first winning month of the year was last year. We had a rough start to the year, but now I really do like my process, how I'm looking at fights, how I'm deciding to bet my bankroll, and I feel like we're going to be in for another good week, man. So a lot of live underdogs here. We're looking at that Royal Roses Jr. I will know if I'll max bet it here soon. But yeah, man, give me Cannonier to win that main event. Good luck on your picks this week. Good luck on your bets this week, guys. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.